Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to automate a creation of virtual machines using Hyper-V and Ansible and Vagrant. This is for automation of systems provision. First, we're going to create VMs with isolated network and static IP address and also internet access in the Hyper-V using Vagrant. Then we're going to provision Apache with Ansible as an example of using Ansible for provision of services. The roadmap for this, we will talk about requirements. We need Hyper-V installer. You can check how to install Hyper-V in my article. There is a dedicated article for this video with detailed instructions. You can check on my blog post, and I will post in the description below. We can install Hyper-V in Windows Home or in the Windows Pro version. The instructions for the Windows Home version are a bit more involved because in the Pro version of Windows you have the full support for Hyper-V in the easy way installation. But in the Home edition, we need to do some tweaks, but it's not impossible to install. So check this link to description of how to enable Hyper-V. Now, you will need to have hardware virtualization enabled in the BIOS, but this article walks you through all steps necessary. Once you have Hyper-V installed, you will need to install WSL. WSL is a way to run a Linux environment command line with full support in the Windows. Let's check. You will install Ubuntu or other Linux distribution as if they are application in the Microsoft Store. Also, you enable the feature of WSL in the Windows features. Again, in this article, we do have a link on how to enable WSL. There is a video on YouTube walking through all the steps, tutorials on how to enable WSL in Windows 10. WSL is a feature of Windows 10, and the pros of using it is because it has a more deep integration between the Windows and Linux. In the Windows 11, you can even run graphical applications in the system, so it has evolved this integration. In the background, it uses our Hyper-V virtual machine to run the Linux, so it will enable Hyper-V in your system. Now, with WSL installed, you need Vagrant installed. This is the easiest step. To install Vagrant, go to the website and just run go to downloads and just run the installation. It's the easier steps. Now, you will need Ansible installed in the WSL environment. To do that, it's easy. Just run terminal. I like to use mobile system. So I have Ubuntu WSL terminal here, uh, and you will just need no sudo apt-get install Ansible. Just need to run that. Maybe you have to do update before to update the, the indices, the package information on your system. But just install Ansible. It will you will create a password when you install WSL and for the first time, and you just can easily install this way. Now with Ansible installed, with everything installed, let's talk about some limitations on this setup and how to overcome this. First, Hyper-V does not provide a fixed IP address by default. The Hyper-V machine, Hyper-V Manage, has a concept of virtual switch. In the default virtual switch, it will give you your machine a IP address every time it boots. So what we need to do is to create a net switch when we will provide its internal only network, and we will provide internet access to the net switch by creating a net network. This process is automated by scripts in the Ansible, in the Vagrant installation, and the Vagrant files we create. So we need the fixed IP address because Ansible connects to the virtual machines through its SSH, and in order to do that, we need to a fixed IP address to run the playbooks with a predicted manage, because otherwise we will have to change the IP address in the script files every time. That's not a good thing. So the second limitation is that by default WSL does not have communication with the virtual machines. When we do create the virtual switch, net switch, we need to tweak some configuration in PowerShell to enable firewalling between the network interfaces, and then we will have communications to this WSL. So let's get started. First, we're gonna clone the code. I like to use a project. First, we're gonna clone this code, which I will give you in the description of the video. We'll add in the description of the video. Should clone this on your machine, and I have it here. Let's check this code. Vagrant works by reading a configuration file called Vagrant file, Uh, it works by declaring the configuration for the VMs. So this we're gonna need uh, this. This is the declaration of a VM. We are declaring two VMs here, VM1 and VM2. We're defining the VM and we're using a box. A box is uh, the image for the VM. It will download from the internet. It will need the image needs to be compatible with your provider. Vagrant has VirtualBox provider, VMware provider, and Hyper-V provider out of the box. So this box it's generic Ubuntu 22.04. We will run a provision in shell script for configuring the static IP in the virtual machine. But before we do that, let's check the triggers. Before the machine gets up, we will create the net switch. If the isn't the net switch, it will run the script. The script will check if the net switch already exists, and it will create it and use set the IP address, the correct IP address for it. Then we will provision the VM. We need to provision the VM in the current default switch for Hyper-V so Vagrant can work, and then we need to reload the VM and change the switch of the VM. This is done by the reload trigger. So after we provision the static IP address, we do the reload, and the machine will now be in the net switch. This is like plug and unplug the network cable in the Ethernet. The same for VM2. VM1 will have the IP address 192.168.10.2, and the VM2 we have the final 3 IP address. Let's check the scripts. This is a PowerShell script. It will check if the net switch is created. If it isn't created, it will create and set the IP address of final 10.1, and we would create a new network. This is where the internet and other networks can communicate. By default, the virtual switch will not allow communication through the internet. We need a network address translation in this IP address so it can communicate with the outside world. So it's checking if the IP address is registered, and it's checking if the network is registered. It will do this for all VMs. Then after the VM is up, it will change the adapter of the VM to the net switch. We need to do that for all VMs. And the static IP address is for the Ubuntu server. We will change the netcfg configuration with the address we pass as a parameter, and the gator needs to be the IP address of the virtual switch. So let's check it. We need Vagrant to interact with Hyper-V. Vagrant needs to run as admin user. So I have to run my shell as an admin. Run a PowerShell. First, I'm going to destroy all virtual machines I created previously. Yes. So let's check IPv. I don't have any virtual machine running. Then I'm gonna bring up the provider. We need to pass the provider, which is Hyper-V. So, as I said, first you're gonna try to create a net switch. It's already created. Then we create it was just the VM. My machine has already downloaded the virtual machine disk, so it will not download the disk again. It will clone the machine disk, and now we have to tell what switch the VM has to use. We need to check the default switch first. It will change the SSH keys for the virtual machine, so it's a security measure. It will reload the machine and then set the start IP address for the machine. It already changed the virtual switch to net switch. It will reload the machine again, and then we'll get the correct IP address. Now we get the Vagrant has configured it that gets the IP address of 10.2. Okay, we run the same process for the VM2. Gonna skip the VM2 configuration so we can get we can short the video. We need to check the default switch again. Okay, it finished. Let's check in the Hyper-V manager. There is two VMs. They are running with this fixed IP address. Now we can check that by pinging the IP address. 2 and 3. Okay. Now, clone the code, talk about limitations, we bring the VMs up. I forget to say that we need to install the Vagrant reload plugin. Vagrant. Let's check how to do that. Vagrant plugin. We need to run this command first. So we need to install this plugin because we need to restart the machine in the process, and for order to Vagrant do not lose itself in this process, the reload plugin is necessary. Okay. Now, by default, the WSL communication with VMs is not possible. So we need to overcome this. So in PowerShell, in the elevated PowerShell, we need to run this command. Which is this command here. What this command will do, it will get the WSL virtual switch and the net switch, and we set the firewall and enable in both interfaces. So I will run this command. It's that simple, and now you will have communication between the machines. So let's check that. It responded. It's also responded. So after that, we are now able to run Ansible. In order to Ansible connect to the machines, it will connect using the private keys that it generates. The private key will be in the Vagrant. It will create a folder called Vagrant. We need to ignore the folder in the visual control system. In machines, for each machine, it will create a private key file. Now, this file has an open permission because the WSL it's read from the Windows volume, and the volume has wide permissions. So SSH will not connect to the system in these conditions. What we need to do Uh, First, we need to to say to WSL to mount the driver of the Windows driver in using metadata. That's way when we change the permissions of the file, it will persist the permissions. In order to do that, you can run this command. But this command it's temporary. You will mount the driver and will device is busy because I'm using it. So you need to change the directories, and then now, okay, this is not persistent, so in order to do the permanently we need to edit this file and add these lines, so it's now automated. In order to persist or test, you can queue the WSL session using WSL terminate and the distribution you install, and that will restart the WSL, and then you will be able to to change the permissions. After that, you enter the folder, and then you change the hour of the file. My username is Jovan, so you have to change for your username. So I change the private key for the second virtual machine. I turn to the first. For the first virtual machine, to the Jovan file. Jovan group user. The user is root, and the group is Jovan. So okay, the file, the directory of the file was wrong. So after you do that for the two virtual machines, you can change the permissions. Now we can check the permissions. It's red and white for the user and the group. That's what we need. We have to remove the permissions for the others. After that, we can finally run the playbook. Now, I'm gonna explain a little bit about Ansible. First, Ansible has the concept of the inventory. Inventory is the group of machines where Ansible will connect. In this case, I call VM1 and VM2. I can create, uh, I'm in the group of all. I can create other groups to reference these groups in the playbooks when I run the Ansible playbooks. In this case, we connect using the SSH file private key, and we use the user Vagrant, and it's the IP address 10.2. The same for the second virtual machine. Now, this follows the Ansible best practice. We create rules. Each rule, it's a uh, functional model of your servers. So I create an apache rule inside this directory, and inside this directory there is the text. The text will be the execution flow which Ansible will will do in the server in order to create to add some functionality. So this task, it's really simple. It's just install Apache Web Server using the apt modeler. So it will guarantee that this package is present in the system. We can remove or we can update using other states here. And it will add a index page in this directory, this destination directory. It will use a template tag, template modular. The template modular will substitute some env variables in this file. So we will change the hello world from with the host name, the inventory host name of the virtual machine, which is the same as I shown here. It's VM1 is VM and VM2. And that's it. It will start Apache and turn this file index.html. Now the site, it's the target, it's the playbook itself. So we need a target machine. So it's our hosts in the inventory. We need to become root using sudo. So we set the become to yes, and we apply it to all these hosts that hold Apache. Then it will trigger all the tasks we just showed. So first, let me show you that it's not installed, so it will not load. Now, in order to run this playbook, we run Ansible playbook command, and we pass the inventory, and we choose the playbook, which is site.yum. We had a problem. Okay, I had run this command before, so the host which has identification was destroyed, and this identification has changed, so SSH it's not allowing me to connect. Need to change that 81 and 82. Okay, let's show again. Okay, it will now ask me if I trust the find bridge of the server. Say yes. Well, yes. Where is Now it's running the playbook. I think in the VM1 it doesn't get my yes answer for the failed breach. Don't worry, we can run Ansible playbooks multiple times. It's independent, so it will not change the state of the system if it's not necessary. So we can run multiple times. So we'll run again, and I say yes, and now it will connect to VM1. Okay, now VM1 has changed. Let's check. Let's check that. Okay, hello world from VM1 and hello world from VM2. That's it. We finally get Ansible working. So we pass that. It's okay. One final thought here. Uh, this process may be not necessary if you just want to run dev environment, or want to share an environment with someone. There are other alternatives like using Docker to share containers, which is more performant and easier to set up. But if you want to play with Ansible and do production provision of servers, then this guide will guide you through using IPv as a provider, which is good because it's a default. It's built in Windows 10, uh, and we have a good performance by using this because it's a tape 2, tape 1 hypervision. Uh, so that's it. Thank you for watching.